We want to go back to MSNBC's Ali Velshi in Naples, Florida, where the water is really getting high. Ali, what's going on there?
Andrea, I got another mic, as you can see. I'm going to ask Randy to take a look. This is where we were. We were showing you the ocean. We were showing you the Gulf, really, the Gulf of Mexico, and the storm surge coming in. It continues to come in. Now, if Randy just tilts down a little bit, you can see this is our parking lot. This is the parking lot of where we're staying. Look at the water coming in over here. Now, look down there. You can see cars completely submerged. You can see debris flying around. Look over to the left there. There are 3 cars. There's a dark gray car closest to us, then a silver car, and a white car behind it. None of those cars are where they were actually parked. In fact, you can see that silver car in the middle has been completely pushed. That's the situation with all the vehicles. I haven't even gone around to the other side of the building where my vehicle is parked, but I suspect it's the same situation. Look at these properties across here. These are homes and apartments that have car parking underneath. The car parking is now almost completely submerged. There's debris all over the place. It's entirely flooded, and we are probably high tide here is going to be about 8 or 8:30 p.m. So we are hours away from high tide. We're also a few hours away from the worst of the storm being in. We're several miles south of where the cone for this storm is and where landing is going to be, but it's a very, very big storm. So over the course of the next few hours, we're not even at 1 o'clock, probably 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to be worse than this. So you're going to continue to see this forceful flooding come in. There's no beach left in Naples. There's no beach anywhere from Naples all the way up to Sarasota at this point. Everything is entirely submerged, but it's not the beach that's the problem. It's all this. For as far as the eye can see, here in Naples, there's water inward everywhere. Cars are going to start floating around. That means roads are going to be blocked. It means trees are coming down. We're seeing a lot of these very, very solid palm trees that are used to this kind of weather, or at least similar winds. Look at the way they're blowing. Trees come down. That means electricity comes down. We've already lost power here. You've spoken to some people who have power, but a lot of these communities were well over. I think we're into close to 200,000 people in southern Florida without power. So, and the final thing, Andrea, is for rescues or for power, we're not anywhere close to the height of where the winds are going to be. These trucks, the trucks that the cherry pickers, the trucks that go out to either fix power lines, repair trees, or EMS going out there to help people, they can't do that above 50 miles an hour. So we have to wait for all this to pass. At this point, in fact, I just got one on my phone, a shelter-in-place alert. There's no more doing anything about this. If you are out here now, do not attempt to move. You cannot attempt to move your car. If you see that's your car and you decide you want to move it, that is no longer an option right now. So everybody who is where they are needs a shelter in place. There are still tornado warnings happening across Florida, and there's perhaps nothing worse than a tornado in the middle of a hurricane. So they are asking people, seek safety, shelter in place, hunker down. And Andrea, it's going to be a few more hours before the worst of this is over. In fact, we're not even close to the worst of it yet.
And Ali, just in the time you've been talking, if Randy can pan back to the left there to that car, that white car is now almost completely submerged. You can, I mean, just the water level rising on those 3 cars that you were showing earlier. I guess it's my left,
with every
your
one
right.
of these gusts and surges, you see that they move further. The water sort of takes it out. That middle car, that silver car there, the white car's almost submerged. The silver car keeps knocking around, and eventually it's going to get. And this is what happens. These cars get into the middle of streets. Then that makes rescues difficult. This is the flood part of these hurricanes that doesn't always register to people because we think of them as big windstorms, and this certainly is a big windstorm. But this is going to be a big flood storm.
And the warning from Samara Theodore at the weather station is, you know, this is going to sit for a while. This is slowing down from 9 miles an hour to maybe 3 to 4 miles an hour as it goes over land. So it's going to be over Florida for quite a while and then going to, you know, hit as it moves north and then curves around towards Savannah, Georgia.
That's right. And so Orlando's got to watch out, and Jacksonville's got to watch out. Remember, in Florida, places flood very, very easily. It doesn't happen all that often, but it happens. So everybody needs to be looking at this storm that could move as fast as a human can walk and just sits there and softens up the soil, takes out trees, causes a lot of damage. Everybody's got to take this very seriously.
Ali, stay with us because joining us now is Michael Brennan, Acting Deputy Director at NOAA's National Hurricane Center in Miami. What's the latest trajectory that you're seeing there?
Well, we're seeing the eye wall of Ian move on shore here in portions of Lee and Charlotte counties, Sanibel Island, Boca Grande. This is, survival mode for people in these locations, if anybody's left. Hopefully, folks, this is going to be where there's more storm surge than where you just saw in Naples. We're looking at 12 to 18 feet of water above ground level in places like Fort Myers, Charlotte Harbor. This is going to be an unsurvivable situation for the next few hours here, both from a surge perspective and from a wind perspective, with those 155-mile-per-hour winds in the eye wall moving on shore now. So hopefully people have evacuated from these areas right along the coast into safer locations inland.
Michael, what is the duration of this storm? Because we've been hearing how slow it's going to move once it hits land, once more of it hits land.
Right,
so
yeah. As the center moves inland, it's going to... Yeah, as the center moves inland, right now it's moving about 9 miles per hour. We're going to see a slowing of that forward speed, and it's going to take the center of Ian across the Florida Peninsula. And by the time we get to tomorrow evening, it's just going to be right along the coast, somewhere between St. Augustine and Cape Canaveral. And then it's going to turn back northward and then approach the southeast coast, Georgia and South Carolina, as we go through Friday into Friday evening. So we're going to have a long duration event here. There's going to be extremely heavy rainfall to the north of the track of Ian across central and north Florida. We have hurricane warnings in effect on the Florida East Coast, storm surge warnings as well, and the potential for high winds and a lot of storm surge here from, say, places like Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston. That's going to be a multi-day event extending into the portions of the weekend.
And how far north is this storm going to have, further offshoots as it moves north? What are you projecting now?
As it moves north, it's going to eventually move inland and decay over the southeastern United States as we get into the weekend. But by that time, there's going to have been a tremendous amount of rain. If you look at the rainfall forecast, we're talking about 10 to 15 inches of rain across portions of central and north Florida, isolated amounts as high as 24 inches during the next couple of days, and then very heavy rainfall extending all the way up into South Carolina and North Carolina is going to be an impactful storm for many, many people.
Well, thank you for the latest from NOAA. We really do appreciate it, all the work that you and the great people at NOAA are doing. Thank you, Michael. And MSNBC's Ali Velshi is in Naples, Florida, as we've been showing. And Ali, that street there in Naples as the water surges, and as you pointed out, high tide isn't even until later tonight.
Yeah, and 8 o'clock. So what we think we're going to get here is 6 feet, 4 to 6 feet. Obviously, when you're standing up next to a car and you're 6 feet tall, which the car, so we're not even half the so when you 12 to 18 feet of surge, maybe 3.5 feet or something like that. Many story of a building where Randy and I are right now shooting this, you're in danger. You're in danger on the second floor of a building. On the first floor of a building, you're completely in danger. So people have to think about this. Now, obviously, on Sanibel Island and places like that, they know that they're heavily exposed. These are evacuation zones. Most people, if they're there, know that they're prepared for it. But the storm, the surge and the flood, as I said, Andrea, when you and I talked close to the top of the hour, I was on that beach. Randy, let's take a look at the beach. I was out there, and I was ready to do the report for your show. And, Andrea, you know I've done many hurricanes, and we know how to stay safe. Within seconds, that became impenetrable. It became difficult to watch. I want to ask Randy to come back now and take a look at the cars over there. Randy, take a look at what's happening now. The cars are now all moving into each other because they've gotten to a point where they've been lifted off. And again, Andrea, for people who are trying to get out, this is why we've had an alert go off on our phone to say shelter in place. You cannot get into your car even with a foot of water. Our meteorologists tell us all the time, you can't get in with 12 inches of water. We're now at 3 feet of water. Look what's happening. Cars are just floating around on their own. So this gets worse here in Naples over the next few hours, but up in Sanibel, up in Fort Myers, up in those areas where the storm's actually going to hit and hit hard, this becomes much more serious for the course of the next several hours.
Ali Velshi, your experience and your flexibility and your ability to move around is just such an asset. Thank you so much for all you're doing here, down there for all of us.